You're on.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, you've already had an incredible introduction about meaning and value. I want to ask you, have the last few years, have any of you had any challenges you faced? Couple? Any specific ones? Anybody have money challenges? Family challenges? Relationship challenges? Challenges will test your confidence. Is that true?
Right. Yes.
Yes.
About 3 years ago, my son was about 4 and a half, and he had just entered the park, and he was approaching this older girl, about twice his size. And I held my breath, and I just thought, please be nice to her. She wasn't. She wasn't. She looked down her nose at him quite dismissively. He had said, would you play with me? And she just said, no. Now this was the moment where my son, Michael, surprised me. Because he looked at her, and without missing a beat, he just said, that's okay. I'll find someone else to play with. That's true. Now it took confidence, right, to approach that girl. But it took authentic confidence to know in his heart at the age of 4 and a half that there would always be someone else to play with. It takes confidence just to show up. But authentic confidence is something deeper, richer, and more soulful. It takes confidence to play in the arena, but once you've been knocked down and you've tasted some dirt in the sand, it takes authentic confidence to get up and be willing to get back in the game. My aim tonight is to share with you the 7 keys for success. And my curiosity about this whole arena started at a very early age. And you might say it's because both my parents were psychologists. That was probably part of it. But the inciting incident was that at about the age of 15, I started having these acute bouts of back pain. And if any of you have felt like really severe back pain, you know how scary that is. And I have to say my parents' first response was sort of mystified and irritated. I think my dad was sort of like, where's the blood? What is wrong with you? But the pain wouldn't go away, and literally it would absolutely take my breath away. So we ended up at an orthopedic surgeon's office, who after careful exams and x-rays, he said, you have what's called a scoliosis. That's a curvature of the spine, and 2 bulging discs. Now, none of that meant much to me, but the next part did, because he said, you are never to exercise again. If you do, you could be crippled for life. What you need to do is take anti-inflammatories and muscle relaxers until the age of 25, when we can do a spine surgery. This is not what a 15-year-old wants to hear. Now, I will say it was the 70s, so the muscle relaxers... What could I say? It's another time. But even that, after about 2 months, got old, and it got boring, and it got frustrating. And something about that frustration, something about that much pain kicked in, and something happened inside me. A decision got born where I said, I'm not going to live like this. I don't care what the experts say. I've got to find another way. And I started reading everything I could about self-care. And I started to reach out for alternative help. We ended up one day at an acupuncturist's office. Now again, I got to give this context because of the time. In 1970, whatever it was, acupuncture was actually not yet legal in New York City. So here we're in this office, and it's sort of surreptitious. And I have needles all over my body. And my father just looks at me, terrified, and he goes, oh my God, Marco, what are we doing? This is not what you want to hear when you're lying in a bed filled with... But my point is, I went from place to place and searching for another way. The determination got born of pain, boredom, and fortunately something else that just came to life. And I spent the next several years looking for an answer for myself. And out of it, I discovered some things that I started to see could help other people as well. So after a number of years, I found ways to A, alleviate the back pain, 2, be able to exercise. I play tennis to this day. I never had back surgery. I learned the mechanics. I learned to listen to my body more carefully so that I could identify when I was going to move into trouble and then how to avoid it. I got curious further how to expand what I learned into helping other people overcome obstacles and achieve success. I worked with lots and lots of people. I've got over 30,000 hours of coaching under my belt and 25 years of working with people on a range of subjects in all kinds of arenas. And I identified dozens of elements of the things that help people be successful, but I've distilled them down to these 7 keys. So, key number 1. Maestro, by the way, because of Robin, we have this.
My name is Marc Vahanian.
Oh, you don't need to see that. We're going to keep going. You know my name. So I'm going to let you sit on down, Robin, and I'll take care of it.
Sounds good.
God bless you.
My pleasure.
So the treasure chest, the 7 keys. The first key is purpose. Why you do what you do. That is the question that every leader has to answer and explain to the tribe. Why you do what you do. What do we stand for? Isn't that what Noah was talking about? Your values. What do you stand for? Where are you going? And why? What are you doing? Where are we going? What do you stand for and why? Purpose. Purpose is the thing that gives us spine. It's the thing that mobilizes us for action and it keeps us in the conversation. Purpose, when you're clear about it, it's easy to pick up the phone and speak to a client. It's easy to follow up with someone who hasn't called you back. It's easy to stay in a conversation that isn't going your way because you remember why you're having that conversation. And it's easy to ask for the same. In World War II, there were thousands and thousands of young men flying in the Air Force. My father was among them, and he flew in something called the Flying Fortresses, or B-17 bombers. If you know anything about the Flying Fortresses, the odds of these men all making it through 25 missions were slim at best. And yet, all of these young men willingly climbed aboard those planes, knowing that many of them would never make it back. Why? It's not because they weren't scared. Because I've read my father's mission diary. On each mission, he carefully records what they did, how many planes went out, where they flew into the heart of Germany, a very well-fortified, heavily armed foe. What gave them the courage and the willingness to do it was they were clear about their purpose, and they were passionate about their cause. What's your purpose? Start going further with this question that Noah asked. What gives you meaning? The second key is passion. Think I know these two? Passion, the animating force. Meet Michael with the blue tongue and Mara with the red tongue. These two were hard to get. About 10 years ago, my bell went off big time. Have you ever heard of people's bell going off? Oh my gosh. I would find myself with my wife, and I'm just staring at pregnant women and small children. And my wife started to get a little, honey, this is getting a little creepy. What is up? I don't know. it's hard to explain, but I really want to be a dad. So we got together and we practiced, and that was fun. Well, that is it's fun. But, when you're doing it for a reason and it doesn't happen, you start to go like, well, what are we doing wrong? We had friends who had plenty of suggestions about what we were doing wrong. I don't think that was it. A couple more months later, I just figured, like most men, that it had to be my wife. Unbelievable. I was so wrong. So I met with the doctor, still not properly humbled, but it would come. And he said, yeah, you have this blockage. I said, what are you talking about? I'm from New York. What are you talking about? Blockage. He said, yeah, you got no swimmer. Oh, my, come on. He said, but there is this little operation we can do. Now, this is why passion is so important. You got to want something real bad, before you're willing to let anybody cut anywhere near down there. But, I knew what I wanted. So I'm not going to, go into the gory details. But I was sore for a couple weeks. Took a little while. I got back into the swing of things, and a few months later, we got pregnant, and he came along. That's Michael, and he is beautiful. And this little one, a couple years later, Marc. Passion. What are you passionate about? What is it that you're willing to fight for and do stuff for that gets you out of bed in the morning? And if you can't remember, try to remember and connect with anything. And sometimes we got to get mad, like I got mad about my lower back. See, in the New Age world, there's a whole lot of stuff about like, we're supposed to be all, it's all supposed to be positive and it's supposed to be love all the time. I don't buy it. I say you were born with this spectrum of emotions, and they're all useful. When my kids want something, they will stoop to any emotion. There is nothing they won't pull. Good morning, Papa. I love you so. Let's have ice cream. No, it's breakfast, Mara. We don't do breakfast. Yes, we do. I kind of dig the assertion, but then it mounts. It's like The Exorcist. It's like, whoa! What are you passionate for? What are you willing to fight for? I have a friend who's also very passionate, but he's also very well prepared. And he sells life insurance. And my friend, his name's Wally, the net. Wally is an amazing person. He cares so much about what he does. He cares about his clients. He cares about his friends. And he's prepared to serve them well. About 20-something years ago, his best friend, Sam, purchased a life insurance policy from Wally. Wally was just getting started, so Sam was helping Wally, Wally helped Sam. And over the years, Wally kept up with Sam's growing family. So as his family expanded, he expanded what the policy would cover. 20 years later, Wally got a call from Sam's wife, saying that Sam had died suddenly. If you saw the look in Wally's eyes to talk about his friend, you could see how heartbroken he was. And he struggled with what could he do? What could he do for Sam's wife? And then he remembered he'd already done it. So when other people brought the brownies and the casserole, Wally brought something a lot more important. Wally brought a check, a big check, a check big enough to keep Sam's family in that house and put those kids through college. It also served to remind Wally to be even more prepared to have the tough conversations, to have the conversations that might make somebody uncomfortable, to talk about life insurance, to talk about more, to talk about the things that he needed. What do you need to be prepared for? What's one thing you could prepare better for tomorrow? What's one thing that would benefit from you getting even better prepared? How else might you be prepared so that you could win tomorrow? One way to get well prepared is to partner. Now, some of you have had, now that's some partner. Some of you have had some bad experiences with partners. I know I have. Somebody that you did some deal with or some project with, and it went sour, and you went, I don't want to work with partners. Some people have lived with people, and they went, I never want to live with anybody again. But partnering is the key to more leverage. Partnering is one of the ways you get a reality check on how you're doing and how you're coming across. My friend Alistair's in real estate, and he knocked around for several years as a solo real estate agent, and he did okay. And then he moved on, and he hooked up with the wrong partner, and it was miserable. So it took him a while to work his way back. It took him a while to be willing to check it out again, but when he did, he hooked up with somebody, and now the two of them together have more leads. They also have more paperwork than they could ever have handled alone. They help each other all day with showings, with the marketing plan, and they're accountable to each other. That accountability quotient with a partner is unbelievable. They don't have to be your financial partner either for you to find an accountability partner. But look for ways that you yourself could either grow your business or keep an agreement. I know people who are trying to lose weight, and if they just partner with somebody and say, I'll meet you 5 days a week and we'll walk for 3 miles. I know someone who did that for 10 years together because they had somebody who they promised they would meet. So where's an activity that would benefit from some partnering for you? What's one thing you could do? And what could you do to be a better partner today? This is a critical key practice. In athletics, in all professional athletics, it's expected. They show up to practice, right? If you're a musician, you know musicians, they practice. Even if they've got that 10,000 hours under their belt. Why am I referring to 10,000 hours? Everybody know about that? Yeah. 10,000 hours is the so-called magic path to mastery. But people who are the best at what they do continue to practice. And it's how you practice. About a few years back, I was preparing for a business presentation for a terrific company. I'd done my homework about them, and I went, I know I can help these people navigate significant change. I know it. I'm the right fit for this. Now I got to prove it. I've got to demonstrate through what I say and how I say it that we're going to be a good fit and that I understand their problems. I prepared, I did my detective work, and I partnered with my brother, who was my practice partner. And I would rehearse, and he would go, pretty good, this could be better. I'd rehearse it again. I did it with actually several people. Finally, right before my presentation, my brother Jeffrey, he took me, he put his right hand on my shoulder, and he looked at me the way only someone who really loves you can. And he went, Marco, I love you. You're good at what you do. You're prepared. You're ready. And some will, some won't, so what? I literally, I almost smacked it. So what? I'm about to go in on what feels like it's one of the most important meetings I've ever had, and it's so what? What am I supposed to do with that? And he just, a little hint of a smile showed on his face. He put his other hand out, he reached me, just contained me, and he said, Marco, some will like you, some won't like you, so what? And it hit me, slowly. Slowly. It was like Luke Skywalker listening to Yoda. There is no try, just do. practice. It's so critical in your ability to work with your own mind. That's one of the big practices, is preparing for how you talk to yourself when things don't go the way you expected, when technology doesn't quite work the way you thought, when somebody doesn't like what you just had to say. There are all kinds of practices around that, but part of it's just learning to listen to how you talk to yourself. So the next key, inside practice, centering is one of those practices. You can literally drill getting thrown off your game, having somebody say nasty things to you. How do you respond? In customer service, they get trained like this a lot, right? Having customers yell at them. And then how do you respond? How can you stay a human being, remember your why, still look after people and try to make a difference, still try to connect, communicate, and have a little influence without staying thrown for too long or emotionally hijacked? Everybody heard that term? It's a big term in the world of emotional intelligence, and it takes practice. This is a critical keynote. Everybody see that? So poise is grace under pressure. So what kind of pressure? Well, in this case, it's me surrounded by sharks. That's not you. But all of us have had the experience where you step into situations where things don't go the way you hope they will, where you feel either under pressure, under attack, and it actually takes specific practices to recover your poise. Nobody stays poised all the time. Nobody. Not even the Dalai Lama. But it's how quickly you recalibrate and recover. One of my clients I was working with, she was going to go make a business proposal. Her name is Jane. And she was fired up for this gig. She had studied for this. She understood everything she could about what this company wanted and needed. And she sat down to meet with the CEO. She was primed, she was ready, and she delivered. And he went, you know, that's about a 6. We were looking for an 8. I think she had to, lift her own jaw off the floor. The embarrassment in that moment from his kind of dismissive smack definitely threw her for a moment. And she dropped her eyes, and she purposefully shuffled some papers so that she could regather herself. And then she remembered what we practiced. And she told herself, Jane, get your feet on the ground. Breathe. Remember why you're here. And get back in that conversation. And she turned and she faced that CEO and she said, well, if that was a 6, what would be an 8? And she really meant it. What would be an 8? And the CEO looked at her and reappraised his assessment. And he actually told her what the real hot buttons were. And after about 5 minutes, Jane offered him a clear solution. And they had a deal. 4, critical for our ability to stay in the conversation and even tolerate our own embarrassment. I don't know anybody who doesn't get embarrassed some of the time. There's things that are going to happen, things that don't go the way we hope, the way we practice, the way we plan. But to me, part of the great practice is to know you're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. But it sure helps if you're clear about your purpose and you're passionate about it, and you've practiced so you're prepared for those curveballs. The final key is key number 7. Presentation. Telling your story, getting real, and closing the deal. Every time you walk into a conversation, you're making some kind of presentation. Whether you sell something or not, we're always presenting. Whether you're representing your company, you're representing a point of view, you're having a conversation, even in politics, it's a presentation. A presentation is also a promise about what you stand for and what you will do, what people can count on. About 3 weeks ago, I was on a executive retreat with a team that was going through a rough patch. We had some conversations they were not accustomed to. So we spent the day having these, uneasy, candid conversations in the hopes of building some more trust and clarity of expectations. And at the end of the day, I think we really arrived at something deep and rich, and there was clarity about what they were going to do next. The following day, we went to Wrightwood, California, to go zip lining as a team. We climbed into our harnesses, and the guide was making sure we were all well fitted in our outfits and got our helmets on. And the one guide, she looked at me, and her name was Harmony, true. And she said, "Are you ready for one of the best days of your life?" Well, yeah. That's why I'm here. So we got into the van. I wasn't clear about why they insisted we had our helmets on until we got into the van and I hit the ceiling for the first time on the switchbacks going up the road. About 30 minutes later, we hit the top of the mountain, and moments later, we were on the first tree platform, my hands on a zip line, stepping off into thin air and going 45 to 60 miles an hour. It was thrilling. My heart was racing. The smiles on everybody's faces were so big. For the next 3 hours, we went from tree to tree, platform to platform, without ever coming downhill. Just at the end of that afternoon, Harmony looked at me and said, "So, was it one of the best days of your life?" I said, "You bet." That was her promise. A peak experience for people. What's the promise you make? Think about it. What is it you deliver? What's the value you create for people? You like my treasure chest? I love my treasure chest. So inside the treasure chest is applying the 7 keys. It's really taking these ideas and putting, so here, give me one of those. Sure. Why you do what you do. I mean, that's the thrust of what Noah was talking about tonight and what I'm talking about as well. While these do have a particular order, at different times in our life and in different situations, you've got to focus on one more than the other, but they all interweave. So when you're doing a presentation of any kind, really you're putting all those keys into play at once. My name is Marc Vahanian, and this has been a pleasure. My purpose tonight was to remind you of your purpose. And I have one of these takeaways for each of you. So feel free at the end to come on up and grab one. Thank you very much.